Good morning. It's Tasha here. Sorry I haven't actually been on here the last couple of days. Not like that people necessarily care because I don't have like a ton of subscribers or anything like that. This is like I think it's almost more mental for me to be able to talk out loud about what's on my mind without talking to myself, driving down the street like a crazy person. I think not crazy. Maybe we all do it at some point, talk to ourselves, but and make me feel less crazy to know that I'm actually talking to the camera. But I'm on my way to work. The last day I think that I was on here, I was doing one of my Menopur shots, and I believe that was day 5. So today is actually day number 9 of my process, but let me kind of catch up as to where we are. So I went in on day 7, which was an ultrasound day, already scheduled. And when I went in, those little boogers, my follicles I'm referring to, they were doing good day 5, which was my first ultrasound day. They were responding, and with me having the DOR, the diminished ovarian reserve, I didn't anticipate there being like tons of follicles or anything like that. I was just praying that those that showed up on my original count appeared again. And from my original count, when I did my estimate of how many follicles I would have, I forget the technical term for it. It's like antral follicle, something, whatever. I don't know. I had anywhere between 6 and 8, somewhere around there, estimate between 6 and 8. And so I was hoping that those 6 and 8 would appear and would grow. So that was my prayer. And day 5, there were 5, and they were growing well. In fact, at that time, we already had one that was 15 millimeters already. So went in on day 7 as planned, and the smaller ones at that time from day 5 had grown. At day 7 they had grown, and we had several that were already in the space that my doctor said that they deem mature, which is 15 millimeters. So we had several that were now over that 15 millimeter mark, and they wanted me to come back the next day. And I also had to start, I forgot to mention this, I had to start taking my Centrotide on Sunday, which was my day 5. I had to start taking Centrotide on day 5. And so that's the antagonist to help prevent, you ovulating too soon. So taking my Centrotide, went in, as I mentioned, day 5. They started me on that. Day 7, things were really moving, so they wanted me to come back on day 8. So I went on day 8, which was yesterday, was my day 8. And when she pulled up the sonogram and put it in, we had another follicle that had appeared. So now we went from 5 to now 7 follicles that were appearing, which made me happy that I, like, at least between the 6 and 8 we were there. And but those suckers were from I can see just when she pulled them up, like, they were large. So we had going off memory because I'm driving, but there were 2 that were 10 millimeters. Obviously one of those was the new one, and it had gone from 0 to 10. Obviously it could have just not been seen on the last sono when it was smaller, but it was 10 on yesterday, and another one that had been 8 before was now 10. And so obviously the Centrotide was working for the smaller ones, keeping them from growing too much, but the big ones that had gone from 17 millimeters the day before were now 20 and some change, because I have 2 that are 20 and some change. I have one that's 19, I have an 18, I have a 17, I have a 15, and then I have the 2 10s. I think that's all of them. So 2 20s, a 19, the 18, the 17, and the 2 10s. Yes. So they called me yesterday and said, okay, you're going to trigger tonight. And I was like, wow. I thought that I had a feeling they were going to want me to trigger early because our anticipated trigger date was Friday, which is tomorrow. That was my anticipated potential trigger date was Friday or Saturday, because they anticipated that I would stem for 10 days based off of everything that they had seen in their estimate. And what's so crazy is I have been on my calendar exactly. Everything had lined up exactly how they had planned it, with the obvious throw-in of my hysteroscopy, which I wasn't planning for. I planned for the hysteroscopy, but not the hysteroscopy surgery. That was the only curveball and this whole thing that I've had, which is for me is lucky because I've seen so many women have so many calendar changes. That was my only one. Sorry, I'm all over the place today. And so I was feeling, surprised that we were going to trigger so early. So I was like, okay. So she's like, you're going to trigger tonight at 10:45, and we're going to do your egg retrieval on Friday at 10:45 in the morning. It's like, wow, this just got real. So I said, okay. So I called my babe. Oh, and by the way, I got my numbers in as far as my blood test. So my progesterone is still nice and low. I think it was lower than it was the day before. It was 0.48 the first 2 times I went in for my ultrasound and blood work. And yesterday it was 0.41. And then my estrogen levels had increased and have been steadily increasing. And who knows where they would have been if my stems would have continued. But I think yesterday it was like 900. Which if you take the 250 guideline, 250, I believe is what she's explained to me is the guideline for the number for per mature follicle. So if you were to do that math, that means I have an estimate at that time of about 4 mature follicles. And so she obviously wanted me to go for all 10 days so we could try and get as many follicles as possible. And if we had 7 or 8 follicles, that all of them would be mature was the goal. We didn't get there. So, I triggered last night. I took my Avadril. I triggered with Avadril at 10:45 last night to the T. I mean, I literally shot myself at 10:45. And, I've taken that shot before when I've done, I did my previous IUI, so I wasn't new to that one. It doesn't bother me, that shot, but in the middle of the night, early this morning, oh my God, I had like the sharpest pain in my side, like on my right side. And the 5 ovaries, the large ones, my 19 is on the left, 19 and 10 on the left, and then I have a 19, and then the 15 is on the left, and all the rest of them are on the right. I had a pain on my right side, so I was worried about, like, did I ovulate? So I took an ovulation kit this morning, and so no, it doesn't appear that's the case. So I don't know where that pain came from, but it hurt. It didn't last long, but it hurt, and I have a really high tolerance for pain, and I did not appreciate that feeling at all. So now I'm good. It went away after about 45 minutes. I felt fine. I went back to sleep. So now I'm just getting ready for the retrieval on Friday. The only hiccup we have right now is that we had to do genetic carrier tests, and we're still waiting for my babe's. Mine came back a week and a half ago, and his still hasn't come back, and it has him all super nervous. So I have to kind of help him with his nerves and tell him, babe, it's fine. They don't do them together. They don't come together in a package. They just come separate, and so it's not like they know we're together and that ours should be processed together. I came back with 1 carrier disorder, and the main thing we're waiting to see is if he came back for the same one. If it so happens that he comes back with the same one, it's not a good thing, because this particular disorder is a blood disorder that has to do with your ability to create hemoglobin. And it's for me, actually, causes me to be anemic. And so it's not that big of a deal for me. I just take extra iron. But if we both have it, it's actually a really, really, really bad thing for the baby, because it could cause a lot of issues and when they're actually in utero, if we both have it. So they really need to know if he is a carrier of that as well, because that can absolutely change things for us. So it's important that we find that out. There's something else that they did tell us when they just, as a pre-screening for him, that he did come back as a carrier for, which is weird to me that they know this, but they're not done with the test. I don't understand it, but so I found it weird. How do you know this, but you're not done? But he came back as a carrier for something else, but I'm not a carrier of it. So for the purposes of our IVF and genetic testing and all that, it's not important for the potential baby. So I know it was a lot. So we are just going to go forward with the retrieval, and my babe will be there with me because he has to be, so he can't go to work until after the retrieval, because I told you guys he's a workhorse. So he's coming with me in addition to my cousin. She will be there also, and then he will go to work after I get home and get situated. This was his way of, showing that he's being thoughtful and considerate. He's like, I won't tell my boss I'm going in late, because usually he has to be at work at 8:30, but our retrieval is not till 10:45, so he clearly cannot be there at work. So he's going to see if he can do the late shift, which is at 12, and then come in late from that, so that he'll be at work like around 2, and that way he can be there with me after I get home for a little bit. And he knows I'm good before he runs off and leaves me. But I'll be there with my cousin. She's staying. She'll be with me all day. So I think that's it. So ready to rock and roll with this retrieval. I'm not like nervous about the retrieval itself. I'm nervous about the outcome of the retrieval. I'm nervous about that. The retrieval, I hate getting IVs. The last one I did went really, really well when I did my hysteroscopy. So I just pray that it's as smooth as that one, and then and that the results are positive, in the positive direction. We'll just leave it in God's hands, and I'm not gonna worry and stress about it, because I'm not gonna change anything. So that's it. I hope everybody has a blessed day. It's Thursday, and I will update you all sometime after the retrieval. I wouldn't lie to you and say I'll film any of the retrieval. I might, maybe on the way, something, but definitely will update you guys later. All right, thanks. Bye.